Everybody quiet?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Drone Owners Network Live. I'm your host, Curtis. Joining me today is Randy Foster down in Houston, Texas. Tommy Polo's over there in New Jersey. And somewhere in the middle of Kansas is Abby Lyle. Although I don't think she sounds like she's from Kansas. We got a great show lined up for you, though. Romeo Durscher's here as our very, very special guest. So let's get this show started.
Charge your batteries, lock in those props, and check that airspace. Join us live. This is the Drone Owners Network.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, we are back.
Woohoo! Season 1, Episode 3. Boom! Yeah, we're here. This show's so cool. All right, so first of all, I want to tell everybody right off the bat. We talked to Romeo Durscher yesterday, and our special guest who's here. And we have so much to talk about that we've decided that we're going to cut this up into actually 2 episodes. So immediately after this episode, we're going to do 45 minutes and talk in the interview with Romeo here. We're going to come back in about 15 minutes and then do the second episode. Now, how long that lasts, it's going to get insane because we have a couple surprises for Romeo that he doesn't know about, which I'm sure he's going to enjoy as well. But I digress. We want to welcome everybody to the show. We know you guys are in the chat room and think got questions going on. We're going to check that out here in a second. But before we do that, I'm checking in my ear here. My producer says we've got some breaking news. So let's jump over to this breaking news. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Drone. Well, that was graceful. And here with your news is Mr. Tommy Polo.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, with the Drone Owners Network News Live. Today I bring you 4 letters today. UTAC, UTAC, the Unmanned Tactical, why am I drawing a blank? Tactical Application Conference, which was held last week, March 24th to the 28th. And from what I gathered, that was the most amazing thing that probably could have happened. And I could only wish that I was there. And I'm wondering if there was somebody available to tell us any little bit of information about that. Anybody?
I think a little bit later there will be.
Oh, okay. We'll do that later then. But in a quick nutshell, I don't want to take too much of that away. It was unmanned tactical training, which involved several scenarios: live shooters, hazmat, flood, natural disasters, floods. It looked absolutely amazing. I'm just going to stop there because I can't wait to hear about it. Just reading it got me so excited. But moving on in DJI news, we have DJI announces DJI Terra, which to me looks very interesting because it looks like something that I would be thrilled to get involved with as far as work. This is actually right from the DJI site. The DJI is 3D modeling and mapping software that transforms drone data into digital assets for easy analysis and decision making, which is great for contractors hiring people with the drones to get this information to them quickly, easily, effectively. It is. Romeo, would you like to key in at all with this, or would you like to
go for it? You're doing such a great
the DJI Terra. It helps commercial drone pilots quickly plan automated flights with several easy-to-use applications. It will capture a specific area quickly and easily by drawing a custom polygonal flight zone on a map. So you can draw the area that you wish to fly in, what you're taking pictures of, gathering information, or they will also support waypoint flying or oblique flying, which is flying the same route multiple times and taking several different pictures, all different angles, and it'll take care of it that way for real-time mapping and detailed 3D models, which looks pretty neat. And I believe one of our colleagues got me pricing This will work with all the DJI Phantom 4s. And the pricing is as follows: is for US dollars for DJI Advanced Overseas 1 year, about $2,000 to $3,000 for the Pro. $3,000 for Pro, and the Advanced is $2,000, which it looks really neat. I want to know more about. I want to see it in action. I'm anxious to see what happens. So hopefully, I can hook up with somebody that uses it and see what they got. And one last story: the United States Marines have come up with a plywood drone. Now, me being a former Navy guy, I got to say, good job, jarheads. If you need us to take you anywhere, take you out to give you a ride somewhere to use it, we'll Sorry, but I had to put that in there. But the glider is a single-use, autonomous, disposable, glider-based logistic resupply system, which means they're going to pack this thing full of all their supplies, ammunition, food, MREs, anything they need, kick it either out of the back of a C-130 cargo aircraft, or it could be released from a helicopter sling, hanging from a sling from the bottom of the helicopter. The wings are folded, and upon release, the wings will unfold, and the thing will take off, and it is controlled. Whether I don't think it's going to be much line of sight, but it is equipped FPV. So the pilot will be remote controlling it FPV, take it to their destination. They can either land it, slide it, whatever. Or it's also designed with paper honeycomb in the nose and a parachute to land vertically. So that way, if they want to drop precision drop the thing, they can drop it right in a precision place. It's totally disposable, designed to be destroyed, forgotten about. You got your supplies, off you go, and that's that. But I thought that was really neat, and I'm anxious to see that. Well, I don't know if we'll see it in action anywhere, but hopefully somebody will have some pretty cool stuff with it. But all that being said, I am Tommy Polo for Drone Owners Network, and that's your dang news.
All right, Tommy, thank you very much for the news there. We appreciate that. It is now time for our special guest. So I got to do a proper introduction for you. First of all, Director of Public Safety Integration at DJI, a good friend of the Drone Owners Network for many, many years, someone that you need to be following on social media, and a catalyst in the implementation of drones in public safety. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Romeo Durscher.
Woo!
Nice. Very nice.
Wow. Wow. I'm blushing. Thank you for this intro.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. You're definitely worthy of it. I have known you for a few years now, and we've talked on and off here and there. So there's a few questions I kind of know the answers to, but I kind of want to bring it around and everything. And I think we should kind of start back in the beginning, like before you even knew what a drone was. How we should actually probably start. Yeah, let's just start right there, because we're gonna back up and cover NASA here in just a little bit too. But before you knew what a drone was, how did you get introduced to the drone itself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you may have detected an accent, and usually I make a joke about the accent, but these days you have to be so politically correct, so I'm not going to make a joke about the accent. But I grew up in Switzerland, and when I was in my early 20s, I moved to the United States because I wanted to work on a space project. And, Switzerland does a lot of great things, from chocolate to watches to cheese and banking, but space exploration, not really something we do in Switzerland. So I moved out here to California, and I ended up working on a couple of missions for almost 13 years. And during that time, here in Silicon Valley, you gotta love technology. You gotta get involved with the latest and greatest, both on software and on hardware. And thanks to my very best friend, Mr. Mark Johnson, there can only be one, I got introduced to drones. And that was roughly 10 years ago. And at the time, those drones were nothing what we have today. I mean, it was like a UFO-looking thing that didn't have any of the features we have today. And you would have to be crazy to go into a park and fly those machines without any prior experiences. And guess what we did? Exactly that. So that's how I got into all of this. And Mark who is the lovely husband of our fantastic co-host, Abby Lowe.
All right, Romeo.
Oh, he said Abby.
Romeo, come on.
He said Abby Lowell.
You did, didn't you?
Abby Lyle. So see that there's the connection too. So, but Mark and Abby, their company is really utilizing the technology for accident reconstruction and just the benefits it provides to visual law. The company is tremendous, and that's how we learned about it. How can we better get images from the air of like an accident scene and not having to utilize manned aircraft or satellite imagery? And so, step by step, we worked our way into these various drone applications. But boy, 10 years ago, it was nothing like it is today.
Now, is this when you went to France with Mark? Is this that time period?
That's about that. Yeah, almost that time period. A couple or 3 years into all of this, the wonderful Phantom 1 came out, and the Phantom 1 at the time was like an amazing leap because we went from a S800, also a DJI platform, to this Phantom 1 that was, much smaller, but didn't have a camera, didn't have an integrated camera system. So you still had to attach your action camera and then jiggy rig some additional components so you could have a live video feed. But that's what we did, and we went to southern France for like 5 weeks to really do a few things: drink wine, fly drones, eat a lot, not in that order, but sometimes in that order, and understand how could this technology, how could this camera in the sky change the way we think about photography. And of course, you're in this beautiful location, southern France, Provence. There were plenty of areas we were able to explore. And at the time, nobody knew about this technology because it was that brand new. I remember one morning we took the train to Paris, and we got there super early. It was like 9 a.m. We went straight to the Eiffel Tower, and we set up right in the middle of this long field and took our drones up into the sky, trying to fly the Eiffel Tower. And of course, there's so much radio interference. At the moment we got close to the tower, it would just kick it into return to home. And there was the police was around, and they came over and looked at it, and we were unsure what to do, but we just decided, heck, let's just fly. And nobody said anything. And then we went over to Notre Dame and did the same thing. We took off from a safe location, never flew over people, mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Mostly. And Mark actually even flew the Phantom 1 in between the two towers of Notre Dame. Those were the wild, wild west days.
Yeah.
But that's how it started.
So also in this time period, since you opened this door, I'm kind of hesitant to talk about it, but one of the many reasons that we brought Abby onto the show is that at the same time period, I believe there is a story about Abby, Mark, and Romeo that you want to share.
Oh my God, there's so many. Which one?
Yeah, which one? That's
Well, let's go back to Photoshop in Las Vegas. How about that?
Oh.
All right, Photoshop world. So Mark and I became friends with the famous, we call him Doc Brown, Russell Preston Brown with Adobe.
Amazing guy.
A master of photography and Photoshop editing skills. And, the three of us, we built a Flight Club team that grew, and there was actually a really, really great LinkedIn segment on Flight Club that's worth checking out. But so Photoshop World 2014 rolls around, and then Mark and Romeo were part of this extra curriculum day out in Nelson, which is a super awesome backdrop of a western town, with the whole point of doing aerial photography, teaching aerial photography to attendees. And one of the attendees was Abby. And I had the pleasure of grouping together all the female pilots because back in the NASA days, we put a lot of focus on getting women more interested in technology because there's a huge gap. If you look in the RC community, it's like 98% male dominated, and there's a huge gap, and we want to close that gap. We want to bring in and encourage female photographers or female operators to pick up technology because there's so many benefits to that. And so I had the pleasure of working with this all-female group, and Abby was in my group. And there was one particular scene that I will always remember. And in the very early days of the Epson Moverio glasses, we gave the attendees an opportunity to see what it looks like through those Epson Moverio glasses. And Abby was wearing them, and she was so overwhelmed by this beautiful view that there were tears coming down her cheek. And that to me was extremely impressive. If the technology, if the view, if the ecosystem can achieve that emotion, that's how impactful it is. And that was a wonderful
it was, Romeo. It was, for me, I have my private pilot's license, and for the first time I felt like I was actually flying. It was, I mean, the whole day was just extraordinarily fun. And there were quite a few females, actually. I mean, there were a lot of us out there, and Romeo, of course, was a fantastic teacher. We started in a way that you don't learn anymore, with that no camera on the machine. And, it was just amazing, landing on picnic tables and going crazy. But yeah, it was great.
And that's where Abby and Mark met. So.
Yep. And guess what Mark was doing? Well, Romeo's out there teaching. Mark's in the shade pretending to fix all of the broken drones.
It's a great story. That's a great story.
I don't want to hog all the questions here. So if you got anybody else has questions, jump in here. I just want to kind of get it rolling.
Well, I mean, I think that leads us right into a huge epic event that it was a unheard of situation to try to do live on national television. And that's when ABC Good Morning America reached out to DJI, and Romeo happened to be one of those guys that said, hey, I can make that happen. And they made a little trip, and they went to to a pretty amazing location. Romeo, tell us about it.
Yeah, that was an incredible adventure. So the whole idea of this program was bring the listeners or the viewers to these amazing locations and show those locations through the view of a drone. And we went, there it is. We went into the world's largest cave, Son Dong, in central Vietnam. And what we did on the first trip was we had to evaluate, is this even possible? Can we find a spot where we can set up a satellite dish so we can broadcast the views over to New York? And then how would it be to fly drones inside this tremendous cavern that had some of the largest openings, but also some of the smallest? And in this particular view here, we can see one of the dough lines, which is an opening in the sky or in the ceiling of the cave, about 1,000 feet above. And so that beam of light just comes in. And so we went there with a very small team on the first trip to just evaluate. And we trekked through the jungle for a full day. We got to the first cave, the Hang En Cave. We stayed the night there. Then the next morning, we trekked to the Son Dong Cave, rappelled ourselves inside, and we were in this different world. We had this amazingly beautiful cavern system with these two big openings, with a jungle inside, with its own weather pattern. There were clouds and fog coming in and out. It was unreal. And I do remember the very first time I flew in there, we had the Inspire 1 and the Phantom 3. The Phantom 3 got held up in customs, so we didn't get that one. My Inspire 1 got shipped to a different location, and I didn't have any products when we got to Vietnam. But luckily, there was a dealer that had just become a DJI dealer, and one of the owners, Lynn, she brought an Inspire with batteries to our hotel and just said, take it, go do whatever you need to do. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
So I'm flying in this cave for the very first time, and I was like a beginner. I was shaking because it was, first of all, you have no GPS. You have all these thermal activities because of the size of this cave, and you have no idea of judging distance. It's just like your brain, my brain could not compute it. And the first like 10 flights, I was like a true beginner again until you got the situational awareness to judge distances and figure out that, how the winds work, how the winds are pushing, an amazing experience. So we decided, yes, we can do this. We all came back to the US for about 10 days, loaded up everything, shipped everything to Vietnam, and we got there less than 2 weeks later to start setting up this feast of doing a live TV broadcast. And it was no easy adventure, and it was an incredible teamwork to do all of this.
I might point out that it was actually a huge success, and you guys made it happen.
Yeah, we did, and we only had one crash, and I own that crash because I was on the first trip. I was trying to do something really different. You know, that beam of light that comes into that cave. I wanted to fly right on the edge of the light and the shadow. And now, there's no GPS in there, so you're in eddy mode. And of course, had I thought this through, I would have realized that the air on the shadow side is much cooler than the air on the sun side. So I'm trying to fly straight through this, and it just, because of this thermal activity, it just pushed me right into a stalagmite. And the whole Inspire 1 goes tumbling down. And, I had a backup now. And I said, as long as we can find the camera and I get the SD card, I'm fine. Well, we did find the camera. We popped the SD card out, and it was split in half.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Heartbreaking.
Damn.
Well, we had a bit of a glitch there for just a second. Apparently, it doesn't like the OBS Studio doesn't like the way we were trying to put photos in there. I was going to share a bunch of photos with everybody, but it just froze up. So we can't do that at this particular point. We'll figure out a way to get those photos out to you guys and show you that stuff. That cave episode was amazing. In fact, for me, I started flying with the Phantom 1 originally. And there were two events that I thought really brought drones out into the public's eye. And, of course, it's our fellow friend over there in Amazon when he made his big announcement on TV that drones were going to be delivered and all that. That kind of forced drones into the public eye. And then the ABC episode with Romeo at the cave in Vietnam was the other one. And I say this in a positive light and not all the negative news it got, but people would come to me and go, so, wow, drones can do all this really, really cool stuff. So those, to me, as a guy who's been doing this for, quite a few years, those are the two big events that really kind of put the good face of drones out there. We're continuing to do that, but those were the first two for me, the two benchmarks as I see it.
Yeah, it definitely did. And actually, we can point out DJI did a couple more events that were on a national broadcast level. Where they did some volcanoes, they did some glaciers and stuff like that, and so Romeo and the team at DJI were the ones that put that together and made that happen. If you guys are curious about those kind of things, you can definitely find them online. The video, the pictures, they are incredible. They are worth the Google search.
On episode 2, I'm going to do a couple quick tests real quick. So when we come back for part 2 of this episode, I'm going to try something that I think will work so we can get these photos up so everybody can see them.
Cool.
Probably the next thing that would come up would be public safety and humanitarian focus. Is this when your job title changed actually from at DJI or?
Yeah, so when I started DJI, I was director of education because I, at the time in 2014, I realized that we need to do much more education. We need to do education on current operators. We need to change public perception through education. We need to educate lawmakers, and we need to educate the enterprise, the commercial side of things, because someday commercial entities will be utilizing this technology. And also, we need to get this technology into academia, not only to students and teachers, but to research, because that's where you then see some of the most amazing applications come out of. I never saw that build of that department. And as soon as I had my team in place, I already started to focus on learning about public safety, because I knew that live video stream will immediately provide benefits to public safety and humanitarian organizations. It's a no-brainer. And so I invested the first year and a half in really understanding public safety, learning about the vertical. What is it that they need? How could a drone help? How would it be integrated? And really got a good sense of how this all would work. And then the Phantom 3 came out, and Phantom 3 was really the first time I thought, okay, we are now ready for public safety, because it was a small platform, it had light bridge, it was very capable, it had sensors. So that was the perfect time to start focusing on public safety. And it's a challenge, because public safety is a very, very different vertical. Because of the history of salespeople knocking on fire department doors, trying to sell, a vacuum system in essence, telling the chief, hey, this is what you need. And over decades, the chiefs, following and then realizing, well, this is not what we need. So you can't just do a sales approach. You really have to take a very, very different avenue going into public safety, and learning about this was absolute key.
Was there any resistance from DJI to? I'm sure there wasn't any resistance, but was there? Were they immediately accepting, or was there like you needed to talk to them and point it out to them that, hey, this is something that we can really use, or was it something they came to you and talked about? I mean, who at DJI kind of initiated this, you or them?
So it was at the time it was Eric Chang, another fantastic and extremely talented individual. Who worked with me out of the California office, and together we started to look at the bigger picture of where can drones go next, because obviously the consumer side is one huge area, but we already had the foresight that there will be so much more that can be done. And so Eric totally encouraged me to focus on public safety and also the humanitarian side, because he believes that all of this will benefit in the future on the commercial side, and we were right. But that was early on. That was very early on, when most of the company was still, so focused on the consumer side.
Let me break in real quick and ask you a question. Have you ever worked with public safety before this happened? That whole environment. Working with first responders, firefighters, law enforcement, it's such a different industry, right? And the people are different. It's a very unique breed of people that are able to work in that kind of environment. Had you ever interfaced or worked with those kind of departments before?
So I was in the military in Switzerland, because we have mandatory military service. That's as close as I got. Now there are some similarities between service and public safety, but you're absolutely right. If you go in the wrong way, you will stay on the outside. But if you go in and if you get accepted, it becomes this brotherhood, and people will vouch for you. And I'm super grateful that I have made it in there, and that I've been vetted by so many people, and work travels in public safety faster than any other vertical that I've seen. And so now being in there and people knowing that, hey, Romeo is not a salesperson, Romeo is still critical. When something doesn't work, I point it out, even if it's my own product. And that's real, that's like last week, and we will talk about UTAC a little bit more. Part of training is also figuring out what to do when certain issues arise. And sometimes, we at DJI, we still have little bugs in software or on the hardware side, and we need to point that out and also help public safety departments to understand that it's not perfect. And this is a challenge because we are potentially trying to save lives. And if we oversell the technology and the application, then we're not doing them a favor. So we have to be real. And I think that has been the key in all of this.
But I think, Romeo, you've been the face of reality in that, in that case, because I think it is hard to cross over, with the commercial side, people seeing it or buying it from Costco or whatever, and then realizing that application can actually be successful, in fire and rescue and searching. And you've just done a phenomenal job there.
You're right. Thank you, Abby. Yeah. And the interesting thing is public safety started to buy off-the-shelf product that was, intended for consumers. And they already started utilizing it. But of course, because it wasn't intended for their particular purposes, for their environment, it wasn't meant to fulfill all of the needs. And that's why we started to really put our heads together and trying to understand what is it that public safety needs. And out of all of that came the Matrice 200 series, and then the Mavic 2 Enterprise series. And the Mavic 2 Enterprise series is a real testament to what happens when you listen to the needs and wishes of your customer base. And one really funny story, when the Mavic 2 Enterprise came out with the spotlight and the speaker and the night beacon, I read some of the comments on the online forums, and the consumers, they were bashing the product because they couldn't see, they were saying, oh, DJI must have ran out of ideas to put a light on a drone or a speaker on a drone. Well, they couldn't see that this is not for the consumer. This is really for a specific application. And now it's one of the most liked platforms in public safety because you have so many ways of utilizing it.
Yeah, we saw that in a lot of different Facebook groups as well. Amazing little piece of machinery. I'd like to see it developed even more, to be honest with you. I mean, I kind of think, and I have no inside information on this, so this is just my strictly opinion. I think kind of DJI was kind of feeling the water, so to speak, and I think we'll see something better down the road that integrates more of this stuff. Did you want to talk about the Maldives and the humanitarian efforts that happened back in 2016?
Yeah, so another really good project was going to the Maldives with UNDP, the United Nations Development Program, which is bringing technology into the humanitarian world. And the Maldives, it's a series of islands that are on average about 5 feet above sea level. So any change in water level has a direct impact on the lives of the people on the Maldives. And, we can go on and on if climate change is real or not. They are still feeling the impact. If we accept it or if we deny it, it doesn't change the fact that their islands are being flooded more and more. The water is rising. Their livelihoods are at jeopardy. And so we went out there to trying to see how could drone technology help. When we went there, we went on a very national level. We talked to the president as well as all the various departments to understand how could the drone help. Obviously, there are several areas, including mapping. What we realized was many of those islands didn't have an electronic or a digital map. They had hand-drawn maps of the island. This was the first immediate use case to create digital maps of those islands. And then doing the map, every 6 months and starting to analyze the changes could help figuring out, what areas of those islands are more at risk than others. But when you have, 1,000 islands, you kind of need to put a system into place where people from within can support that, because you can't go and map 1,000 islands every 6 months. So it became a much bigger project, but it outlined the potential of this technology in mapping and research and analyzing data sets. And it was a really good story because, the drone in essence is nothing more than a data gathering device. And it was very evident that that's the case right there on the Maldives.
That was some really cool stuff. The other thing, I guess we could jump up a couple of years here. The story of the first two official deployments of what we looked at the Oroville Dam spill and the Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, California. Perhaps focus maybe on the impact of operating in these kind of environments, like the destruction, the danger, the emotions, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe you can expound on that a little bit, because you're going into a place that is not comfortable. I mean, there's no other way to put it, and you're going in there with all the best intentions, but there's some bad stuff going on right now, and you've got to deal with that. So maybe you might want to expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We don't often talk about that side of things. So what had happened in this, we're going back now to 2017, we started to see drones being used more and more in public safety and also in natural disasters. And actually 2017 was a big year because we had some really bad hurricanes, and we started to see drones being used for good in post incident application. And that changed the narrative in the media quite a lot. And in my presentations, I always show that up until that point, the media was talking about drones in a fairly negative way. And then suddenly 2017, we're starting to see the drone as like a hero device. And we had a couple incidents here in California. One was the Oroville Dam, where in February 2017, we thought that dam would break. And so we got deployed up there as part of an urban search and rescue team through FEMA. And we brought drones there just in case to be ready. And this was the very first time here in California where we deployed to a natural disaster. And of course, the integration was completely unknown. How do you properly integrate all of this? Because you probably have manned aircraft in the air. You need to tie in with incident command. So this was a great learning experience. And then less than or almost 6 months later, the devastating fire in Santa Rosa happened. And we again got deployed as a larger UAV team through public safety to go and start visualizing the impact of the fire, where entire communities were burned down and lives were lost. And you're right, Corbett, you go into these environments and because most of us have not seen a devastation like that, you see evidence of life that happened a few hours ago, and now you're there, boots on the ground, and you see destruction. You help in recovery efforts. We were doing hotspot detection on rubble so that the K9 units could go in and look for remains of people that were missing. And, it gets to you. It gets to you to see all of that. And then you go back to town to, grab something to eat, and all the people that have been displaced are, waiting for information, and they come up to you, they try to get information, but they also come up to you to thank you. And it was really amazing to see how the communities come together. People that had lost everything and didn't have anywhere to go were now there helping with making food for first responders, or bringing drinks and water out to the first responders. They just want it to be useful. And that's emotional. It's fantastic to see, but in those scenarios, it's also it's impactful. And here comes a big piece into play that we sometimes downplay, and that is the human factor when we deploy in public safety or national disasters. It has an impact on your performance. When you fly 8-9 hours a day and you're in that devastation, when you're in that smoke in rubble, it has an impact on you emotionally, mentally, and physically. And we need to understand that so that we can do better and safer drone operations.
Yeah, sorry, Kirsten,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Interrupt you, but I would like to add to that. With what we do too, we're not trained and Romeo, I know, will agree with me. We're not necessarily trained the way first responders are, to deal with what we get to see. And that can be very tricky. It takes time to kind of get used to doing that and to respond in the way that they respond and not to respond inappropriately around them too. That I found quite difficult.
Well, what I was going to say,
PS post-traumatic stress is in a real thing, and it's going to be also a real thing for drone operators that may come, from a different perspective. Honestly, after the Paradise fire, in fact, when we went to the Paradise fire, the first 2 days, that was last November, the first 2 days, I was numb. I was so numb, and I started to get worried because I should feel emotions because of it. 20,000 homes are destroyed. 1,000 people were missing at the time, and I felt nothing, and I was worried. But then I started to realize, I had some issues, and after Paradise, I did go and talk with a lot of not only public safety officials but also a counselor to just get that off your chest. And we need to understand that because that's an important piece of all of this.
I agree.
I want to change up the line of questioning here for just a second. So a lot of people may or may not know you used to work for NASA. Now you're working for DJI. Can you, and I kind of know this answer, so can you talk about the differences of working for NASA versus working for a company that like DJI?
Yeah, it's like day and night. When you do space exploration, safety is your number one, especially when you send human beings into the harshest environment there is. You got to quadruple check every little thing. So there's a lot of testing going on. And that means that a lot of time is being invested in the design and in the manufacturing and in the testing process. So these missions are, 10, 15, 20-year-long missions. And at DJI, we see the complete opposite. We see new technology come out, every so many months. And sometimes in all of that, especially in the early days, the testing wasn't always done as good as it could have been. A lot of improvements have been made at DJI because of the lessons learned and also because of the experience that so much to the company. But it's definitely a very, very different environment when you have new products, new enhancements, new hardware, new software come out every few months versus you're working, for 15 years on one particular mission.
That's really awesome. Hey, I think what we want to do now is we want to take a break right here.
Before we do, because a lot of these questions are going to be tied to this episode, do we want to just grab a couple questions off the chat real quick before we
we can do that.
This broadcast?
Sure.
I saw one that was kind of interesting to me, and Romeo, it's Lauren Donauer, I think is her name. She says, Romeo, DJI seems to be moving more towards enterprise products. Are they giving up on hobby flyers?
Absolutely not, Lauren. And I can give you a very few good examples that we're not. Number one, you're right. We have kind of split two different arms of the company. One that is looking after the consumer side of things, the other one after the enterprise side of things. There are very, very different needs between the two. And we need to have focused people on both so that we can be successful on both of these different markets. We will continue to build great products, either aerial or ground-based systems for the consumer side. And on the best example is our policy team. Our policy team is working very hard to ensure that hobbyists can continue to fly their platforms, not only for fun, but enjoyment. And so they're actively working against, city or county regulations that try to limit the use of drones because we believe that is not the right approach. And so we are going to continue to support the consumer market. We will continue to bring out really cool new technology that will make flying more fun, enhance the capabilities of the platform, We will continue to focus on the policy side to ensure that hobbyists have the right to fly safely, of course, maybe in designated areas. And we will also at the same time focus on enterprise to really showcase that this technology will help us on so many different areas. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of the hobbyists are now moving into the enterprise side. We see a lot of firemen that started using drones as hobbyists, and now they're using it for work. And I see we will see that more and more, that people who are hobbyists also can use them at work. And that to me is fantastic.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think a lot of us, we enjoy, we fly professionally, but we also fly for enjoyment too. And so, we get to enjoy some of those products as a dual use.
One other question that's in there from Bill, the drone reviewer. He's got a question for Romeo. Pretty sure Romeo can't answer this though. Is the Phantom 4 at the end of the line? Is that it? Is that it for the Phantom series?
That's a good question. Nice to see you here too, Bill. I was on Bill's show a few weeks ago, and it's always great to talk about technology. So yes, the Phantom line, with the exception of the Phantom 4 Pro RTK, has come to an end. And that is somewhat sad, but it also makes a lot of sense, because if you look at the Phantom 4 Pro and the Mavic 2, you see a lot of these, overlay of functionalities. One platform is slightly bigger than the other, but they're very, very similar, if not almost the same. And so, something has to give. And I truly believe that the Phantom has been a fantastic product line that has really brought in a lot of hobbyists to using drones, but also a lot of enterprise customers to thinking about how they can be used. And now we're at a point where we're going to see how the technology will continue to evolve on both sides.
I'll even point out the silhouette of that Phantom product has become iconic. And even when we look at your shirt right now, that looks like a Phantom 1 with the eyeball, with that status light that was on the tail.
Yeah.
It has become so iconic. And, whenever you see a story on the news and they said, oh, a drone this or a drone that, they 9 times out of 10 throw up some sort of a Phantom product to illustrate what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, it became pop culture. We saw it on South Park.
Yeah.
We saw it on The Big Bang Theory. So it did become
Family Guy.
a symbol. Family Guy, yeah. It became the symbol of drones. You saw a Phantom 1, and it was, or a Phantom, and it was the drone.
Very true.
Have you seen the new State Farm ad? It's a little bit disturbing.
Oh, that's right. They use one on the State Farm ad as well.
Yes.
They are everywhere.
They are everywhere.
I will point out, we are right around that time that we wanted to kind of break this episode so that we don't, tie people into a, multi-hour thing. So we're going to go ahead and start winding things down, and we are going to pick this back up, and we have a lot more in store with Romeo, including a lot of lighthearted inside stories that are going to.
Yeah, we've been
shake us up.
We've been pretty serious up to this particular point, and we're gonna break it up in our next episode and have some really good fun with Romeo. But give us about 15 minutes to kind of reset everything, folks, and then come back, and we are going to redo this. So, but right now we're going to end this episode, and we'll be back here in just a few for episode number 2.